moving on to the mental health minute. John, actually one of the fans of the show, just emailed me like 30 minutes before the show and said, "Hey, Mover, why don't you do something about the warrior mindset?" And I'd actually thought about self-reliance. We'd come up with this topic prior to that, but I think it's a good integration because it's a little bit darker than usual in that my opening thesis is nobody's coming to save you. And that is from experience. In the last 2 years or year and a half, I have dealt with stuff where you think that the system is going to fix it because somebody does something and you think, hey, the system is in place, it's going to fix it. And then when that doesn't happen, it'll drive you nuts because then you feel hopeless and helpless and you start feeling like, how do I have any self-worth at all because I feel like the victim? And one of the things I'm starting to realize, or I have realized, is that the system is not designed to help you. And I know that sounds very cynical, but when you realize that, you become self-reliant. And we actually teach that a lot in everything that we do. In law enforcement, for example, one of the things John talked about was Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, and he talks about you fall to the level of your training or you rise to the level of your training. Basically, if you don't have training when the shit hits the fan, you're not going to suddenly figure it out. You're going to go to whatever your training baseline was and probably a little bit below that, and that's the level you're going to fight. So if you're in a field that requires you to be hard to kill, which I would argue is everything, that's just life, then you should be at that gym every day working out. You should be working on your cardio. You should be working on anaerobic and aerobic strength and endurance. You should be going to the gun range and shooting and working on scenarios. You should be able to fight and you should be able to defend yourself. And I think every human should have these things because when seconds count, the police are minutes away. The help is minutes away. So I think, personally, when you internalize this and you say, I'm going to be hard to kill, you then take that power away from everybody else and you put everything inside. That happiness, that ability to be self-reliant, that ability to stand up for yourself and not worry about what's going on outside. And that way, when the world disappoints you or when help doesn't arrive, you can still be happy. You can still have peace. Because I can tell you from experience, it will drive you crazy. It will make you sad. It will make you doubt yourself. It will make you feel like you're not a good person if you wait for somebody else to fix the world's problems for you. If you are tough and mentally tough, such that everything comes from within and you're hard to kill, that will make you a stronger person and stronger mentally. And sometimes that means going and getting the help that you need to make you mentally tough. So it's not just saying, well, I'm never going to rely on anybody else. It's saying that I'm going to use these tools to train. You train your body, you train your mind, you train your spirit. Because at the end of the day, whatever your religious beliefs are, I think there are 3 entities that will never let you down. Your dog, your God, and yourself. Maybe not in that order, but that's kind of, if you're self-reliant, that's the world you are. But that doesn't mean you never reach out to people. That just means you have to make yourself stronger and you have to make everything come from within than worrying about outside stuff to make you better. Shanghai, what do you think? Am I there? Off base?
You are. And it's interesting, Mover, because, when you asked me about a mental health topic and I sent you a suggestion and you said, well, it's kind of what we talked about previously. What I really wanted to send you was be tough. And we wanted to send you kind of what we ended up talking about. It was really ironic, and I didn't send you an email back. But now listening to you kind of expound on the topic, it's exactly kind of what I was thinking of, and that was all the things that you've talked about, and I've been in on a little bit in the mental health arena are great, and they're as far as have somebody that knows you that you can reach out to, get help when you need it. All those things they're great. They're great suggestions. But realize that you have a capability within yourself that you probably don't even realize that you have.
Yep.
And you need to believe in that and sharpen it when you can. um, all these ideas that Mover are talking about, being physically fit, being mentally sharp, being well rested, and kind of doing some what ifing. And it doesn't have to be that much of a negative thing. It's just, hey man, it's a tough world out there. It's a tough world, whether you're talking about violence in the streets, or you're talking about combat in the Middle East, or you're talking about China and Taiwan, or you're talking about making the sale tomorrow to the customer that you're going to go call upon. Okay,
Yep.
Because and when I taught undergraduate business courses, I was getting my MBA at my alma mater here in Oklahoma City. The first semester of teaching undergraduates, I realized one thing real quickly. These kids didn't know how to learn. They knew how to regurgitate information that they memorized and move on to the next thing from some study guide. But I try to instill upon them that that's not how the real world works, kids. Because the real world in a business environment, for instance, the test is every single day, and the study guide isn't there for you. You got to find that information out for yourself. Who's the competition? What's the threat? What's the environment of technology? How much do I know my product? How much do I know my customer? How much can I find out what the needs of my customer are and present my product in a way that meets those needs? That's the test, and that's the person that's going to get the sale, get the promotion, get the next advancement, and fulfill their goals in their career field. So it doesn't always have to be the person around the corner that's going to take your wallet. It's the salesman around the corner that's going to take your customer. So I think the self-reliance, the training of yourself to be the best self you can be, and then rely upon yourself, believe in yourself, and if you got extra time, then become that person that others can rely on. Nobody's coming to save you, but maybe you're the person that comes to save somebody else. I went through this. I'll tell a real quick personal story. So when I went through a divorce, and it was a divorce that I really didn't want to have. It was amicable. There was no smoking gun. A lot of it was related to issues that I've dealt with in my own mental health since then. But after 24 years of marriage, I found myself separated and looking at a divorce with two teenage kids that that we went on to raise to be fabulous young adults. We did that as co-parents, and it worked out just fine. But my point is, there I am alone in a hotel room, and it was a dark period of time. And I just knew that there were a couple of people that would reach out to me. Now, I didn't really need anybody to reach out to me to help, to pat me on the back, to help lift me up. I didn't really necessarily need to explain what the story was or wasn't to a lot of different people. But there was a couple people that I just thought were close enough friends that they'd check on me. And it wasn't that I needed them to check on me, but when they didn't check on me, I was kind of surprised and shocked a little bit. And then later on, I reflected upon it, and I came up with this. And I don't think it's too dark. I think it's actually true. I think most people don't have any friends. I think most people have maybe one. If you have one or two true blue friends in your whole life, you are a very blessed person. What do I mean by true blue friend? I mean somebody that when you're having a tough time, if you reach out to them, they'll drop what they're doing and come to your aid. And you'll do the same for them. And you may not talk to these people all the time. In fact, I think in a lot of instances, these are people that aren't in communication every day, but they have a connection, and that connection is a deep bond, and that brotherhood, sisterhood will come out when it's needed, and it will be just at the right time with the right words. But most people don't have that. They have fair weather friends. They have work-related friends. They have social friends. They have party friends. They have family that maybe not even as close as some friends. And when something significant happens in your life, like I was, my divorce was, those are the people that if you've got that kind of a relationship, they'll reach out to you. And so what I did was, I realized that I didn't have any of those people. Now, later on, when you saw them, they said, "Hey, man, we were thinking about you. Glad you're doing. It's good to see you again. Glad you're back here," or whatever. And that's all fine. And you just accept that and say thank you. But here's what I did. If these aren't even people that I would consider true blue friends, but fact, I've reached out to Mover a couple of times, and just with an email or a text or something. But is that if I know somebody that's going through something tough like I was, I'll just give them a call and I'll say, hey man, I don't know what to say. You probably don't want even to say anything. I was just checking on you. Hope you're doing all right. And if you need something, you can count on me. And then you got to be that person that if they do need something, they can count on you. But I think that if I just know in my own case that if I would have had a call or two like that, it would have really boosted my spirits. That somebody's thinking about me. That they didn't have any great words of wisdom, and I didn't need any. But I just been nice to know that somebody is thinking about me. And so when you get through self-reliance, then maybe be that person that just reaches out to somebody else a little bit as well. But we taught this issue. One other thing I'll say is we taught this, didn't we, Mover, to our wingmen? We taught them to be good wingmen. We taught them to stay on our wing. We taught them to say, here's the things you could say as a wingman. You could say two, shark flight check, two. You could say what your position was to fight. You could say bingo. When you're bingo fueled, number two could just say two's bingo. You could say mayday. You could say leads, you're on fire. Other than that, shut the hell up. Right? Be where you're supposed to be. If I put you in wedge, be in wedge. If I put you in fighting wing, be in fighting wing. If we're going through the weather, I put you in fingertip, better damn near be in fingertip when we come out of the weather, right? But we taught our wingmen to be good wingmen and do what they're supposed to as wingmen. But you know what? We're on the tanker and they go missed, missed tanker. They go lost wingman on the tanker. They got to know what to do, and they got to know how to get to the forward operative location probably by themselves in an A-10 because we didn't have radar to hook ourselves back up. What's happened when your wingman when your flight lead gets shot down, and you got to set up that
the rest cap,
cap over them, and you got to know what to do. So yeah, we taught our guys to be self-reliant wingmen as well. Self-reliant wingmen become good flight leads. So this is a continuum, but Mover's right. And if you're flying combat jets, maybe nobody's really coming to get you because we don't really have a search and rescue platform anymore after the A-10, do we? So yeah, nobody's. I liked how you put it, Mover. Nobody's coming to rescue you. Yeah, absolutely.
I do. I like the aviation, tie in. We always try to tie in the aviation thing, and I'll say a couple things with that self-reliance with aviation. Number one, you have to, just like mind, body, and spirit for yourself, know your jet, know your emergency procedures, know your tactics, techniques, and procedures. Because as a young wingman, you don't want to be the tail end Charlie that somebody's going to have to educate all the time and fix all your mistakes and stuff like that. You want to be the self-reliant wingman. You want to be the self-reliant flight lead that goes and finds the answers and then is able to teach others. You want to be the person, because they'll tell you this too, in combat, in an ACM, so multi-plane engagement, you fight your best 1v1 BFM. And that's because there might not be anybody to save you. Your flight lead might be shot down. Your next thing might be rest cap over him. You just have to take care of who just shot the flight lead down. So you have the rest of your life to figure this out, especially in an emergency procedure. How many mishaps have we seen with crew coordination, CRM stuff, where somebody's too timid to speak up because they think that the more senior person's going to fix it for them? How many times have we seen this where somebody could have saved themselves but didn't because they were relying on somebody else to do it? So yes, you do all the crew coordination stuff. You are a good wingman. You are a good team player, but you have to be strong enough that you show up to that fight as the tip of the spear. You have to show up to that fight prepared and ready to do this by yourself, because you might be, like you talked about, it could be doing yo-yo ops to the tanker. You might be the one that gets the troops in contact. And then you have to be that person that helps others. You have to be, with that 18-year-old with a rifle is screaming on the radio that they need close air support. You got to be the one that stays calm and brings down the fire. You have to be able to do that. And that comes from that self-reliance. It comes from hardening yourself and being mentally tough so that you're not asking other people for help. That's it.
Yeah.
Doug, what do you got, man?
I'm just soaking this one in. I'm going to just kind of highlight something you said that let me think of how to put it. There's a cliche that keeps running through my head that failure to plan is planning to fail. you never know when you're going to get in a situation where you have to step up. You never know when you're going to get in a situation where you have to suddenly meet demands that you've never met before. And it doesn't only apply to the military. It doesn't only apply to law enforcement. I think Shanghai talking about, I'm going to call him Shanghai this time, not Saigon. I think Shanghai talking about, applying it to business and applying it to the real world. That's very insightful. And if you think about those things ahead of time, what are the situations where things might get difficult for me? What are the situations where I might have to rely on myself, whether it's something relatively extreme, like, a life or death situation, or whether it's just getting through the day tomorrow. Preparing ahead of time, you're going to rise to that level or fall to that level, just like you pointed out. So I don't really have anything to add other than highlighting some of the things you guys said. You're really on target with that one.
Hey, what's the limit of bad language on your channel? Can I say don't be a pussy, don't be a poser? Oh, I just said that.
I think you just did. Yeah,
I did. So, the point is, be self-reliant, like Mover said, prepare yourself, train yourself. What if these situations, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What are the threats? In whatever situation, I had a great opportunity as an OA-10 guy, because talk about self-reliance, we had to learn to be a wingman and fly in formation and all that stuff. We went through the A-10 RTU, and then guess what we got to do? We went out single seat, single ship, and controlled airstrikes at red flag. Oh, as a lieutenant, holy crap, man! You talk about needing some self-reliance, and because it's on display for the whole exercise to see, and you learn that really quick. But I think this thing of self-reliance is like Mover stressed. You got to put in the work. You got to go through those scenarios. You got to go through that training. You got to strengthen yourself at the gym. You got to keep your mind strong. You got to know how to use your weapons, whatever those are, and you can't be a poser. You can't say, "Oh yeah, I know how to do that because I play Call of Duty or whatever." Oh yeah, I think you gotta really, be honest with yourself and assess, what are my capabilities? Are my capabilities to myself, and then to help others as well.
My Krav Maga instructor was an old Israeli guy. Awesome dude. He's had a helicopter mishap, got paralyzed, got himself back walking. And his mantra in training was, the more you sweat in here, the less you bleed in the streets. And, it's one of those things that it just sticks with you. You're like, yeah, I guess it sucks right now. But if I'm making it easier for myself when the chips are down, and that's kind of what I was getting at. And for all the things I've just said, it's always the hardest to believe it yourself. And you think that there are institutions out there that if things go wrong, they will fix it for you. And that is a very naive viewpoint. When you're relying on a bureaucracy or something outside of yourself to fix your problem, what you really have to do is acceptance. You have to be able to accept the situation and then adjust your course of fire, your plan of action. And that comes from hardening yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, everything, so that when these things happen, it's not the end of the world. It's water off a duck's back, and you just move on. You press.
Yeah.
You don't panic.
Yeah, and in combat, it was like that too. We knew we had EF-111s jamming the radars. We knew we had F-15s, doing combat air patrol. But and if those guys showed up and I needed them, awesome. But otherwise, I better monitor those threats myself. Put my airplane in the best piece of sky to defeat those threats. I better be ready to defend myself against those air threats. And I'll tell you what, I don't care what kind of formation you're in, whether you're wingman or the flight lead. I happen to be the flight lead, but when that missile's coming at you and it's doing that conical corkscrew up towards you, and you're watching that thing in the same spot in your canopy, no matter where your jet's going, there's nobody coming to save you on that one. Your chaff and flare aren't saving you either. Better know what to do, better know when to do it. And better have the mental fortitude to internalize all that right now, because that missile's.
Wait a minute! You mean Maverick's not gonna do the Hayaka over you with his flares and decoy the missile himself?
If he does, Yeah, if he does, awesome. But, if he saves me at the last second because I couldn't save myself or whatever,
I think that's
awesome. But
yeah.
I was on a search and rescue actually out in Western Iraq one day, and I was in a 3-ship, and a tornado had gone down up near Baghdad. It's the middle of the day, and we're headed up there, and they launched MiG-25s launched out of Baghdad, and the F-15s came screaming overhead and launching missiles. It was cool, and I was awfully glad they were there. But we were ready. We'd already turned to beam that threat because the AWACS said they're coming, and we were already descending and beaming that threat. So when the F-15 streaked overhead, it was awesome. I was glad they were there, but we weren't relying on those guys,
right?
100%. But it was nice to see. So let those people that do come up and show up to rescue you be oh, thank God, and I'm glad they're there. And it just took a little bit of the workload off you, but you're already stepping up to save the day yourself.
Yeah, and just look at current events. Look at the world right now. The world's a dangerous place. It's always been a dangerous place, but I think we've been lulled in the sense of security. And we have gotten this mentality that somebody's going to fix it for us. And then once it doesn't, then it affects your mental health. But if you are in a situation where you are competent and capable, you can handle anything. You can handle anything, especially when you give yourself the tools that you need for your mental health. And that's why this mental health minute is so important, is because we talk about issues and ideas just to bring light to it and bring awareness to it such that you're thinking about it. This doesn't replace seeing a professional, but it does just get you thinking about stuff. And if you can get thinking about stuff, your mind is probably the number one thing to strengthen. It's the number one thing that'll be your worst enemy or your biggest asset. And if it's not in the fight, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah. Can I carry self-reliance one just a little bit further, since we got maybe a little bit of time? And that is that's this one is rely on yourself for the information about what's going on around you as well. We were talking about current events and things in the world, and it's a very dynamic world geopolitical situation. Even here domestically, we've got a lot of issues that we're wrestling with. Don't rely on other people, some website, some news source, to be your sole source of information about what the truth is. Be discerning. That's kind of what I was talking about with those undergraduate students that didn't know how to learn. I said you got to learn how to discern the information, how to go out and find the information that's pertinent to what you're thinking about, and then what's applicable, what's true, what's valid, what logic tells you makes sense to you, and make up your own mind about these things. Be well informed. You don't have to be so hyper vigilant that you're paranoid, but you do need to be, I think, well informed about whatever the threat is. Whatever the self-reliance goes beyond being prepared to react. It's being wise about what you think, what you know, what you believe, what you're willing to fight for, what's important.
Yeah. Challenge yourself. Challenge every idea you have. Don't get lulled in this sense of security. Challenge what you think you know. Challenge yourself physically and mentally, and challenge your ideas and beliefs, and allow yourself to justify why you think the way you do. And then if it's not working, change it.
Yeah. And if you can justify the way that you think, if you can explain that logically, then you're I think you're probably on the right track to being on the track to the right solution. And you know what else? Man, I wish we could have a society where civil discourse, where debate is welcomed again, instead of this, no, I'm right because I'm right. And you can't say I'm not right because I'm right. Explain to me why you believe that. And then you got to listen to that person and not call them an idiot. But the name calling's got to stop, and civil discourse and real debate needs to come back into our society. We just don't have it. We have
We reduce people to labels and then we dismiss them. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Everything has got to be labeled and then we dismiss it, and then we don't have to challenge ourselves, because then we're just like, well, that's a stupid whatever. And I don't listen to those kind of people.
Yeah.
And then John, who emailed me, says, thanks, Mover. I think many of our new young law enforcement and military candidates don't have that warrior mindset and must condition themselves to be prepared to survive by any means. Yeah. Yeah. That goes back to the strong times make weak men make hard times make strong men, circular loop, if you will. Just don't want to be weak. Garrett says, I'm worried when Russia runs out of aircraft. I think that's from earlier. But yeah, that would, you think they're going to do something drastic? Is that the thought when they run out of aircraft?
That was a conversation that was going on in the
I think
non-star chat. That what are they going to do when they get up against the wall? Yeah, if they get up against the wall.
Kate says, Shanghai, thank you for returning as an invaluable member of the team. Yes, Shanghai.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks,
You're
Kate.
Awesome. Thanks for
appreciate you
back. And Kate also says, soaking this in, core of all you have taught us. Thanks, Kate. And that is it for the Mental Health Minute. Shanghai, any reattacks? I still have not heard from Gonky, so I hope he's not sitting on the side of the road somewhere.
Yeah, I think this comment like John made, it's a really valid comment, and we've maybe talked a little bit negatively about certain aspects of society tonight too, but I think those things are important to bring up. But you know what? There's some great young people out there too, and there's some great people our age out there as well. But I'm pretty encouraged when I see some of your followers, Mover, and I see some of the comments, some of these young people. I had the opportunity a couple weeks ago to sit down with a young man from here in Oklahoma City, and this is a guy that's well accomplished in his career, works for a major defense contractor in a prominent position, got a lovely young wife and a beautiful home. And you know what he wants to do? He's Russian Guard units, man. Wants to be an A-10 pilot, or an F-16 pilot, or an F-35 pilot. But he's a super guy. And I kind of like to ask the question of people that reach out to me about that, is like, why do you want to do this? And I love T-Bear's answer, to that. And this guy had the right answer. He's a guy that wants to serve his country. Sure, he wants to fly airplanes. He's got a private pilot's license in a couple hundred hours. He wants to serve his country, and he wants to do it in a single seat jet. Hell yeah! But I look at a guy like that and think, yeah, there's a lot of hope for us in the future. We talk about senior leadership of the military and our civilian leadership, but there's a lot of young warriors out there, men and women, ready to stand up and defend freedom. So,
oh yeah, there you go.
I'm pleased with it.
Yeah, no, I think it's like anything else, right? Social media highlights the best and the worst of us. So you often just see the entitlement, but you miss because what gets clicks? It's negativity and clickbait and all that stuff. That's what people are drawn to, the drama. But they don't see the good that happens still to this day. I would never write off an entire generation of people, because I don't think you can say that all of one generation or another is bad. Sure, there's bad actors in every generation, but the important thing is, are there still good people out there? And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, and if you're one of those people, if you're one of those leaders, stand up for what you believe.
Yeah,
be an example. I think last week, Mover, you talked about there was somebody that was I think he wanted to be a Marine, and he was worried about his friends didn't see it, and I think somebody gave him great advice. Just be who you are, man, and be a leader. They'll the ones that have the capability within them will follow you.
And that goes back to we're going to anchor on the mental toughness, but that goes back. I can't tell you how many people have reminded me, and I struggle to listen to them, but they're absolutely correct. When you are that person, if you are a person of integrity that tries to do the right thing, that tries to help others, people will try to break you down, because they have whatever they have inside them. They don't see that, and that they then become, they're like, well, I don't, it's this jealousy. It's this internal jealousy. It's this internal Well, obviously you have some ulterior motive because I have an ulterior motive, and they project that which they are guilty. And so you will have people try to bring you down, but you have to be the man with a solid core like Gonky. I mean, I can't stress how impressed I am with Gonky and you and Doug and all the friends that I have in my life, because you're men of integrity. You're men that stand behind your belief. I mean, it takes guts to make the decisions that you guys have made, where you're willing to walk away from something because it doesn't fit in your core beliefs, and you stick to those core beliefs no matter what other people say. And I think we as a society sometimes allow the crowd to dictate our actions, and we become spineless. And then that goes back to, and that becomes leaders. You become leaders because you have you're just going with the whims of whatever's popular, not what's right.
Yeah, it's a good point, Mover. I think for the young man that was struggling with being with his choices and how they compare to other people, and his frustration kind of over how he is don't be frustrated. Just be who you are. It might be a little lonely sometimes, and you might take some spears and arrows, but you know what? When a leader's needed, they're going to point at you. I just have known people in my life, and I suggest that I'm co-hosting with one of them right now, that when that guy walks in the room, people notice a difference. People notice a leader before he says anything. But so don't shirk those opportunities. Don't be ashamed because you're different. Sit in the front row. Be first. Introduce yourself to people, and be who you are. And when a leader's needed, you're going to find an opportunity to serve.
Yeah,
guarantee you.
Yeah,
and this life is short, folks. This life is short, man. And there's an eternity after this that we're preparing for. And so, the short term uncomfortableness of maybe being a little ostracized because you're a little different, I think it pays dividends in eternity, and
but
maybe even just around the corner.
Realize too, the machine's going to go on with or without you. So that is why it is important to internalize your own truth and your own happiness, because all the "Dear Boss, I Quit" letters, you don't even remember their names anymore, because they were replaced with a yes man. They were replaced with somebody who would do it, who didn't have that solid moral core. So you're replaceable. And so you do have to have those values, and you do have to act on those values and continue to do what you believe is right, regardless of what the popular opinion or the what other people perceive as right at the time. So, Douglas, you got anything else, man?
I had something that I forgot. I think, I got to start taking notes. Shanghai made a really good point with regard to self-reliance and leadership, that, if you, and you've said the same thing a lot too, you just have some integrity, stick to a set of principles, and you'll find yourself in leadership positions. And that's a good thing. And when you're self-reliant, others will recognize it. And I've been on both sides of that. Hurricanes will teach you about self-reliance. I remember one time after a hurricane, I had made a new friend recently, and I was concerned about him. He's an old guy from Ville Platte. You know what that's going to be about. So I loaded up my chainsaw and a couple of 5-gallon cans of gasoline and put them in my big pickup truck, and I'm off to rescue my friend who was down deep in the hurricane zone. And when I got to his place, he had a generator running, and he offered me cookies because he had just finished baking. I know who's the leader in this situation, who's the real self-reliant individual.
Yeah, no, there you go. Well, we'll wrap this up here, but I will say, I know people are going to ask every time we do a mental health minute. People are like, "Mover, are you okay?" Yes, I'm okay. A lot of this hits home, and that's why I do it, is because it hits home, and I feel like if it can help somebody else to not have to go through that, then maybe it's worth it.
For sure.